Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, the 7th of August. Welcome back to the D3D4 football podcast dedicated to all things Leagues 1 and 2. We are a week on from football coming home. The victory at Wembley.
Yes.
I was there. Fantastic. Absolute amazing scenes. Brilliant. Brilliant, just the game in general, really, that England can finally win a major trophy. Because what was it, 56 years? Whole generations going without it. And brilliant. I hope this is the start of something really, really good for them. Both the Lionesses and the women's game in general. I think we're seeing a good impact already for them. Absolutely fantastic. It is myself, Chris Stringer and David Jenkin on this week's podcast to review Leagues 1 and 2. Chris, how are we doing? National League got underway yesterday, didn't it?
It did, yeah. We had a 0-0 draw down at Torquay, so a steady start, and somewhere between 800 and 1,000 Latics fans going down, depending on which figure you look at. So yeah, we're settling into that.
Is it quite nice to have the longest trip done already, really? I suppose it is really Torquay, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't go. I would have quite liked to have gone because it was fantastic weather, and there was pictures on Twitter of people sat in these really nice hotels with a view of the sea, glorious sunshine. But my first match will be next week. I'm a season ticket holder again against the mighty Dorking Wanderers.
Yeah, Dorking had some fun with Chesterfield, didn't they? But that's for a different podcast. David, first time talking to you this season. How are we doing?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. It's good to be back. It's nice to actually be on the podcast with a win to celebrate. It's a joyful time. I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about today from all across both leagues.
Yeah, I have no idea what a win is, so let me know how it feels when we get the chance. We'll get onto that. This podcast is in partnership with The Big Step, which tackles football's relationship with gambling. There is an excessive presence of gambling adverts within football, and The Big Step continue to do great work to raise awareness about the dangers of gambling and the impact it can have on so many people's lives. This partnership we have with them is brilliant, and we really appreciate having it. A big thank you as well to all our Patron members, and a shout out to our newest patron as well, Jonathan Eubank. Your contributions to all of you are really appreciated by us. They let this podcast keep going. They let us run the website as well. The community we've formed is because of the contributions you provide as patrons, and we do really appreciate that. But without further ado, let's get going, and we're going to begin with the world's best third tier.
League One.
League One, let's get it out of the way. Let's start at the Pirelli Stadium. Burton Albion 0, Bristol Rovers 4. We don't have to talk about Burton. I don't think they're worth deserving to be talked about, really. This is a disgrace of a team that started this season. It's a disgrace of a manager with his so-called, and I use quotation marks here, tactics that have started this season. Really, I can't believe you can have a terrible performance at Wycombe on the opening day and then proceed to be even worse the following weekend. That takes something quite special.
I saw someone point out that this is what happens when you sign 4 former Oldham players.
You did make love point that out. Shout out Dina Marmry for that, certainly. But let's put a lot of attention instead onto Bristol Rovers, who had a lovely time of it yesterday. I believe that is their first ever win at the Pirelli Stadium as well. There's been a few moves between Burton Albion and Bristol Rovers since Burton came into the Football League, but Bristol Rovers have never come back from Burton-on-Trent victorious. And if you're going to get your first win, why not make it a 4-0 victory, certainly. Did they benefit from that first-minute red card to Conor Shaughnessy? Yeah, you'd have to say so. I mean, you're playing a Burton Albion side that can be pretty useless at times when there's 11 men on the pitch. So when it's 10, as an opposition footballer, it can be the easiest ride of your life. And Bristol Rovers just went and carved them open, really, in that first half. The free kick that resulted from that foul was scored by Anthony Evans. James Connolly made it 2-0 from a deep cross. Aaron Collins got a brace as well out on the left-hand side. Deji Oshola just couldn't handle him. Chris, a real chance for Bristol Rovers again to flex the muscles they have. And we've known from the League 2 days there's a really strong attacking outfit in these. And if they get the opportunity to take someone apart, they can do it.
Yeah, I mean, they had about as an easy day at the office as you can get, really, I think, yesterday. As you point out, a strong 11-man Burton team isn't the finest outfit. So going up against 10 for 89 minutes, I mean, really, I think Burton could have forfeited it after that red card.
I wonder if you can actually forfeit games, because there's a point where I'm wondering, can you just throw in the towel and just say, we'll take the 3-0 and you could just go home? Because I kind of wish it was that. They were so dominant that first half.
Yesterday, to be fair.
Yeah, they're so dominant that first half. I appreciate them taking their foot off the gas, which is quite ironic saying with Bristol Rovers, and just letting the game just stay as it was for the second half, certainly. But really impressive performances. They went 4-4-2 yesterday. Ryan Loft and John Marquis as the centre-forward partnership. Aaron Collins down one wing, Harry Anderson down the other. One of the new signings, Lewis Gordon playing at left back as well. I think he's signed just on the day too. David, I quite like how Bristol Rovers have built their squad together so far. I think there's a bit more to add, you'd hope so, before the window shuts, but nice little return to League One for them so far.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's hard to really gauge a team that's sort of played against, the team that seems to be the level that Burton are playing at so far this season. But I would say definitely if they want to progress, then, of course, additions are always welcome, aren't they? But yeah, I mean, to be fair, Marquez looked really good yesterday. He looked like it was a real good addition there, and it seems like Joey Barton, as much as I hate to say it, seems to really be onto something and seems to really be progressing this team.
Football genius, I've always said it.
He's a football genius. Ever since that win last year, they got them up. Brilliant. And an excellent result for the Bristol Rovers, and lovely way to bounce back from that opening day defeat at the Mem to Forest Green Rovers as well. Sat on 3 points for a possible 6 right now after a great opening first away day win of the season. Surprisingly, that wasn't the only 4-0 scoreline we had in League One. David, can you explain Exeter City 4, Port Vale 0 to me?
No.
I don't think you could say that.
No. It's just mental, isn't it? Like, going from, what was this? This was one of their, Port Vale won this one.
They denied Exeter the League 2 title last year. Yeah.
So, was it final
it was,
one of the season? Yeah. So it's amazing that it's almost like Exeter have said, right, okay, you've denied us the league title, take this. It was a great game for Exeter, and their additions have really seemed to come to fruition here. They seem to have a really good game, but to be fair, Harry Kite, what a volley that is.
Fantastic first goal.
What a volley. I mean, for me, if I'm honest, I don't think it was a penalty. I don't think that second goal should have been a penalty, but even if you take the penalty out, it was still a dominating performance from Exeter in this game.
Yeah, a pair of goals from Giovanni Brown as well, another to Sam Nombi to add to the one he got on opening day. I feel a bit for Port Vale. That was nowhere near full strength for Vale. They didn't have James Wilson, for instance. It was Tommy McDermott partnering Jamie Proctor up top, and I think there's a difference between Jamie Proctor when he's got Wilson alongside him and when he doesn't. You do notice that, and the partnership you hope we're going to get to see throughout most of the season, but it's not there at the minute. Lewis Cass in the back line with Will Smith and Connor Hall as well. Just a day to forget, and I think maybe an example that Port Vale have got a bit more to add to them, would you say, Chris?
Yeah, I think so. They're lacking in depth, as you say. A couple of players drop out, and so they're a really weak squad. I mean, losing 4-0, it doesn't exactly speak wonders about you as a squad.
No, not ideal, but I still think Vale will have enough about them. I'm a really big believer in Darryl Clark and the setup they've got there. I hope they can do well. It's a bit of a bitter pill to swallow, I suppose, in some ways, with the result of that. Mm-hmm. A bit of a realisation that maybe it's not going to be.
Yeah, I think it just hammers home that it'll probably be a bit of a tough season, and they probably do need one or two more players just to show themselves up in terms of depth.
Yeah, David to Jamal Blackman as well in the Exeter goal. We mentioned last week about how we felt that was really all that Exeter needed. I mean, they've still got a load of academy graduates in that team already. We mentioned Harry Kite, there's Archie Collins in there, Joshua Key, Jack Sparks, Alex Hartridge, Czech Diabate. It's ridiculous this conveyor belt Exeter have got, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real testament to the club as well. You always want to be churning out, especially at this level, you want to be able to use that kind of academy talent. So you're not like, obviously, most teams
I think
at
it's a benefit as well, because you think about it. The competition down there is very little. It's the perfect kind of region to be in, really, because Devon area, you've got maybe Plymouth Argyle and Torquay United a little bit away, but for that area, you go to Exeter if you're a player in that region.
I was going to say, for me, it's probably a really good model that other teams around this league and other leagues probably should be adapting. I mean, teams like Gillingham should probably be adapting this kind of model because there's generally a bit of a monopoly on players.
Do you not have a bit of competition to London, though? In a way.
Well, there is some competition to a certain degree, I suppose. But if you consider, like, in terms of Kent in general, it's the only, obviously Gillingham being the only league club within that region. So you'd assume that maybe we'd take a little note. But I understand what you're saying. But, to have that sort of, I wouldn't say it's an overall monopoly, but they seem to be doing really well in terms of local recruitment. And I think there's a lot of teams that could benefit from that.
It's one of the big things of Matt Taylor's appointment, really, the work that he's done to get some of these talents really thriving. And I was really worried during the summer that we were going to lose a lot of them, and they haven't. like we said, it's still the core of that brilliant team that was promoted in second place last season, and it's shown so far, and a great win for them. Bolton Wanderers against Wycombe Wanderers finished 3-0. It was a brilliant day for Bolton, really. Cole Dempsey got a brace. Aaron Morley got his second in 2 games. We talked about Wycombe last week and how they had a very makeshift defence. It was Jack Grimmer in a centre-back role. They had David Wheeler playing at right-back. Yesterday they had Jordan Beater playing left-back. That's 2 natural, what you call wingers in full-back roles. And young Tyler Dickinson in goal. Now, they got away with it last week because they were playing Burton side, the best game in incompetent attack. And I said I wanted to see them against the more competent attack. And I think, really, Chris, you'd have to say yesterday showed they do need additions if they're going to meet their aspirations for this season.
Yeah, I think we sort of pointed out last week that they were very sort of an expansive side, very forward-looking, which was great against Burton, but they've come up against a Bolton side here that's very capable, probably promotion chasing this season, or at least playoff chasing, who kept themselves tight at the back and really there was so much space in that back line. All 3 goals were from really leaky defending. As you say, the fullbacks playing aren't natural fullbacks, and I think that just meant that there wasn't quite as much cover as there should have been. And just watching the highlights back, I was really staggered about how much space there was for Morley and Dempsey to come forward, which is, they use that sort of technique quite nicely, those 2 wider midfielders overlapping Afolayan and Bakayoko up front. That worked really, really nicely against a really leaky Wycombe defence.
What do you guys think should be the aspirations to Bolton this season? What for them considered successful and unsuccessful this season, do you reckon?
I think success is top half, but their aspirations should be playoffs.
Okay. David?
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree, to be honest. I think, you ask any fan, they're always going to say, playoffs and that sort of direction. I wouldn't be surprised if you get the odd fan or the odd person that's saying, even higher than that. But I think they should comfortably be in that sort of region, whether it's just outside the playoffs or just within them. That's probably where I would have them this year.
I would like to see Bolton pursue the playoff places, really. It was a bit of a roller coaster they had last year in terms of their position in the table. There was a point where they looked very good, a point where you were slightly concerned about it, but they did pick it up towards the end and ultimately just had too much to do to pursue those top spots. I'd like to think they could be firmly in the playoff mix this year, although I think we put about 10 teams in that category at the minute with this division. That's the way we anticipate League One being, certainly. But that's a great win at the U-Bowl for Bolton Wanderers over a side that could well be in the same place as them could end the season, and Wycombe Wanderers will have to wait and see. Another team that won 3-0 yesterday, Peterborough United, got a 3-0 victory over Morecambe. For me, this was Posh just flexing the muscles they've got.
Yeah.
The immense power they've got, the thumping it from Joe Ward from outside the box. He's someone who's very capable of that. I can remember a few goals he's done from range to that as well. Ben Thompson got the second. There was a first goal for Hector Kipriano as well. It was a midfield they brought into the Leyton Orient. I remember feeling a little bit surprised about that signing when I saw it, because I didn't mind Kipriano, but I thought the jump from League 2 to League 1 would be an interesting one, but he's settled in quite hard to Peterborough so far. Posh, as we said, Chris, flexing their muscles, really showing the attacking power they've got in this team. We've no doubt about that. We always felt there's going to be a lot of goals in Posh games. Would you say, though, and I would say this is a game that won't really define Morecambe's season. It's a heavy defeat, but these are not the kind of games you anticipate Morecambe getting points from, really.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke last week about the strength of Peterborough's attack, and they've shown that yesterday. Ward getting one of the goals, Marriott chipping in with an assist, and Clark Harris really creating a lot of space up front, taking a defender aside and creating space for those in midfield. But I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we've tipped Peterborough to be one of the top sides in this division, and they've shown us why. Morecambe, they'll be content with a bottom half finish, and so I don't think they need to be too worried about this. They can probably take something away from perhaps slightly being a bit more savvy in defence when they come up against these bigger sides, but I don't think there's much to worry about.
Yeah, I would say if you go to London Road and come back with a point, especially if you're one of these considered bottom half sides, it's something to be very respectful about, certainly.
I always enjoyed visiting Peterborough. I've not been since they've refurbished it, but it was always quite a sort of nice away day.
I think I lasted Peterborough maybe 18-19. That was Ivan Toney's time at the club, and he carved a lot of people open as well, didn't he? And I suppose people might think Johnson Clark Harris could do the same this year. Didn't get a goal yesterday, but he's still right up in the goal scoring charts as well after his brace another day.
He created so much space though, because he's such a big guy. You need at least one, probably two defenders on him, and I think that's why the likes of Kipriano and Thompson had the space to get in with their goals.
David, Fleetwood Town, defeat on the opening day at Port Vale. They got a win themselves, a comeback winner themselves against Plymouth Argyle. They initially went behind to a Ryan Hardy penalty. Dan Batty got an equaliser. That's 2 in 2 games for him. And they win it right at the end through James Garner. I think we said last week about how you don't enjoy coming up from Argyle after losing a game. Argyle haven't enjoyed their recent trips to Highbury either. They find it quite tough up at Fleetwood.
Yeah, they seem to have, haven't they? I mean, this is almost somewhat reflective of last season, wasn't it? Where the late goal was a draw. In this particular case, the late goal's been all the 3 points for Fleetwood. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, credit to Fleetwood here. They continued on and they kept going and going, and they didn't really stop here. And maybe that's a little bit of the manager rubbing off on them as well. You know, the kind of the way Scott Brown played as a player, sort of quite aggressive, and they seem to play really sort of, well, it sounds stupid to say this, but they almost played the 90 rather than, you know, sort of dropping off.
I would hope you play the 90.
Well, but you know what I mean? Like,
they played 96.
Right. you know what I mean? When some teams like drop off towards the end, but like this Fleetwood side, especially in this particular game, Plymouth maybe dropped off a little bit, thinking that the draw was gonna be enough for a point. Well, obviously they were gonna get that point, but yeah, absolutely fair play to Fleetwood here. Continued going, and obviously they've taken all 3 from this one.
Do you know, we're 2 games in, and I already get the sense Fleetwood aren't gonna have boring matches this season. They feel like last year in a way, that a team that give as much as they take. They can get goals, but they can ship goals as well. You know, I quite like that forward 6 they had yesterday. Paddy Lane, Ellis Harrison, Callum Morton leading the line, Daniel Batty, Brendan Wiradu, and Josh Feller in midfield as well. I do like a lot of these Fleetwood signings. I just wonder how they're going to compete with the rest of the league at the minute. I mean, that's a very good result against an Argyle side we've got a lot of hopes for this season, certainly, but...
Imagine coming all the way up from Plymouth though to hear that pug wash music.
Is there anything worse?
I was listening to Radio Devon because it had the commentary for the Oldham game yesterday, and they kept doing score updates from there. And just hearing that music goes through me even now. It's just so horrible as an away fan.
I remember the first time I went up to Fleetwood Town. It was December 2018, and it was the middle of the storm. And it was the kind of storm where if you took a goal kick, you could play a 1-2 with yourself. It would just come back at you. And Fleetwood won 1-0 with a penalty with Jake Buxton foul. And I think it was it Paddy Madden maybe who scored the goal for them? I think it might have been. And you get that pug wash, but you're freezing cold. You're wet all over. You're at the back of that horrible terrace stand, which is only a few rows high. And then the pug wash music comes on. You just think, just get me out of here, please.
Although I have to say one of my favourite footballing memories was at Fleetwood, where I think we won the game 2-0 and we scored one of them from a free kick, and that terrace behind the goal goes mad, and someone dropped their pie over the front, and you see Connor Brown break from the celebrations to pick up the pie and give it back to the fan who just dropped it.
I suppose Morecambe fans have quite good memories of Fleetwood from Stockton last year as well. I wonder if they can pull that out again. We'll have to wait and see. Certainly, but a 2-1 win for Fleetwood, very good response to their opening day defeat. Forest Green Rovers had their very first League One game at the New Lawn. I think it's called the Fully Charged New Lawn now, is its sponsorship name. It seems to change every single season.
Oh yeah, Fully Charged, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's its name. They fell 2-1 at Ipswich Town though. First half goals from Marcus Harness and a cracker from Sam Morsey for 2-0 as well. I think I've said before about the Marcus Harness sign to Ipswich Town. I really hope he can have a big influence on them. He's someone I've so much admiration for, really, as a player. He's such a great technical attacking player, whether out wide or in attacking midfield positions. He was part of 2 attacking number 10s yesterday alongside Connor Chaplin, with Freddie Ladapo leading the line for Ipswich Town. Forest Green pulled one back through Josh March. I've really been encouraged by Forest Green's start to life in League One, to be honest. They got that great win over Bristol Rovers on the opening day. They really tested Ipswich Town yesterday, by the way. Christian Walton was called in to keep them out a number of times as well. David, Forest Green, people aren't quite sure about them. I think we were ones who maybe felt they could be relegation candidates this year. Some others might have felt the same, but certainly reasons to feel encouraged at the minute if you're a Green Devil.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's definitely opportunity to feel optimistic, but I think, you know, that it's the old adage of they're still getting used to life without a lot of key players that have left, and you know, there's still plenty of time to recruit if they choose to do so, and they could probably do with bringing a few more bodies in as well to reinforce for life in League One. But yeah, it was definitely promising yesterday. I mean, we know the quality that Ipswich possess, and we know that they've got a lot of quality. And we know that we're probably looking at them being higher up the table. So this probably isn't a game that Forest Green fans would have been overly bothered about losing anyway. But I think, you know, it's positive starts, and, you know, to get what they've got out of the first few games, and to see some of the signs we've seen have been very positive. So let's hope they continue that as we continue through the season.
Yeah, still without Marty Stevenson now, certainly, but they've had Jamil Matt and Reece Brown leading the line in the first couple of games. And now to sign in Connor Wickham as well. And I still feel like some people see Connor Wickham as this kind of Premier League journeyman. I don't think we can really say that anymore about him, can we, really?
Of course you can't. No, it's been a long time since he was at that point, wasn't it? Like, he had a bit of the stint at MK, but it just didn't work out. And hopefully, maybe he'll be able to revive himself a bit here for Forest Green, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that fact.
Well, we'll have to wait and see with that, certainly. But defeat for Forest Green Rovers against Ipswich Town in their first League One home game, but certainly things to be positive about. The other Gloucestershire side, Cheltenham Town, were away at Barnsley. It was Michael Dost's first home game at Oakwell as Barnsley manager. It had to be Cheltenham Town, didn't it? It just had to be the team he'd moved from after years of success there. Barnsley won 1-0, a thizzer, as I call it, from Luke Thomas, the edge of the box, the only goal. Yeah, proper thizzer from them. Cheltenham made a test of it themselves as well. I think made a couple of chances. Barnsley, a bit tricky to judge, I think, at the minute, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, they've come away with the win yesterday, but they didn't particularly inspire me. I think, Cheltenham, no disrespect to Cheltenham, they've given them a good game, but I think they should really have been taking this one with a bit more ease, and they look to be making life a bit difficult for themselves.
Yeah, I quite like the look of the team. I mean, you had James Nord and Jack Aitchison leading the line, Anderson, Kitchen, McCarthy in the back line, Nicky Cannon at left wing back. Can't wait to see him when he's fully going, because anyone who's shown to Forest Green will know how good he can be.
They're not really utilising the attack as well as they should be, I don't think. I mean, neither Norwood or Atkinson both got subbed off. Really had the best of games yesterday.
I think Aitchison is someone who could have a good impact on them, I hope. He's had a number of loan spells in League Two. He was at Forest Green for a while. He was at Stevenage for a little period as well, after coming down from Scotland. He's someone I hope can finally grow into a League One player, because I've been waiting for that for a while. I still think there's a lot of potential in him. But yeah, maybe quieter again than you'd hoped from the front line yesterday. But if you've got Luke Thomas, someone in your midfield who can have an impact like that, it's good to have. And I love they've still got Callum Stiles in their team as well. And I love the fact that he's Hungarian international. Whether they're Callum Stiles.
Is he the one that was born in Oldham?
Oh, probably. I feel like every footballer's born in Oldham, Chris.
Well, there was a fellow in the Hungarian team, and my girlfriend's Hungarian, and their parents were watching the game, and apparently he was born in Oldham. It was just really surreal.
It probably was him then. It probably was. Oldham Hungarian international. It's amazing international football now as well, isn't it? Like, you've got Mati Cash at Villa, who's declared for Poland as well.
Yeah,
it's amazing some of the nationalities you'll find with some of the players here as well. I think I saw that Luke O'Nien's eligible for Singapore as well, who's at Sunderland.
Yeah, I love when people go back to their grandparents to find out if they've got a relative in Gibraltar or something.
I wonder if I could find some heritage that allows me to get maybe called up for, I don't know,
San Marino.
Yeah, something like that. One of these like very amateur level national teams get a chance to play for your country or something.
Well, on my mum's side, I'm about as northwestern as it gets. I think my mum went back to the 1700s in her family history on her side, and we got as far away as exotic Macclesfield.
That is two words I did not think I'd hear put in the same sentence.
Well,
exotic Macclesfield. Yeah, I think I have. I'm going to use that. Exotic Macclesfield. That will confuse people. They won't have a clue what that's all about. But a 1-0 win for Barnsley over Cheltenham Town. There was also a 1-0 win for Charlton Athletic over Derby County. Derby, I felt, were quite wasteful in this. Yeah. Quite a lot of opportunities that came their way. Some fantastic saves from Jojo Woolacott and a Charlton goal, particularly one from pretty much point-blank range. But Charlton got the goal, an Albie Morgan shot that was parried into the path of Corey Blackett-Taylor for the only goal of the game. Charlton...
How was Jason Knight missed that as well?
Yeah.
How was Jason Knight missed that absolute sitter?
You'll have to ask him. I don't know. But Charlton, David, I'm really interested in how they're going to transition into Ben Garner's style. It was something that was quite entertaining to watch at Swindon Town. Ultimately, it didn't get them over the line with the promotion, of course, but I'm feeling quite encouraged about how it's fitting into that Charlton system at the minute when you've got people like Morgan, McGrandles and Fraser in midfield. He's letting Kirk and Blackett-Taylor be expressive wingers as well.
Yeah, I think Swindon Town A team is doing really great.
That is not what we're calling them.
But yeah, in general, I think they're doing great. And, Ben Garner's a great manager. We know what he brings to the table. And they've made some great signings. I think it's been a really positive start. And actually to make that kind of start against a team like Derby and to come out of a win, regardless of if it's home or not, is a big statement to make, when you've got a new manager through the door.
I was really struck by the highlights from this one. It looked like they were filming it from the International Space Station.
It's high up, that camera, isn't it? In the valley. It is. I quite like those high up cameras. I think a quite good one as well as Ashton Gate, Bristol City. That makes the pitch look enormous. That camera at Ashton Gate.
It is a big pitch there, though.
It is a big pitch. I quite like these high up cameras because you get a chance to see the whole pitch. You can see. I'm not as big a fan of being ground level as maybe some other people are, because I quite like being high up and getting a really good view of the pitch. So you can really see.
I think there's a happy middle ground.
Maybe there is. I think it's down to personal preference, really.
Yeah.
Each to their own, certainly. But a win for Charlton. Another 1-0. Sheffield Wednesday, 1-0 victory at Milton Keynes Dons. A foul from Dean Lewington on Josh Windass, and Windass converted the penalty. Boys, inside the box or outside the box?
I was inside the box. It was at least on the line, which is inside, right?
It's hard to say.
I'm hearing a bit of contention.
With only one angle, it's really difficult to say. I'd have to, I didn't actually pay that much attention to it. I'd have to watch it again and pay a bit more attention. But
I didn't question it actually when I saw the video. I had some people have done some screen grabs and all sorts on Twitter, but I thought it was at least on the line, which is
Thing is though, when you've only got one angle, anyone can take a screen grab, but it's very difficult to make a decision when you literally have just one view, and it's obviously a behind view as well. It's not particularly telling, is it?
Yeah.
I imagine the ref is probably in a better position to see it than the camera was.
Windass did a fantastic job though to actually get into the position to win anything from that.
He did, yeah, but he got the penalty and converted it. Mentioned the David Stockdale, certainly, who almost essentially won that game to Sheffield Wednesday, really, with the saves he was making to keep MK Dons at bay. He had a lot of clean sheets at Wycombe Wanderers last season. I think he was joint top. I can't remember the other player who finished with him off the top of my head, but he had a lot of clean sheets to Wycombe Wanderers last season. Mm-hmm. I think, really, Chris, this is a perfect example of why Sheffield Wednesday got him in.
Yeah, he's exactly what you want at this level. He's been around a little while now, and he's always been consistently impressive. So it was a fantastic signing for them, and I think generally yesterday they've got a 1-0 win against someone who's probably going to be a promotion rival this season, so I think they'll be dead happy with that.
How would you assess the start of these two teams, David? MK Dons currently 0 points out of 6. I mean, we're 2 games in, it's not worth panicking yet. Sheffield Wednesday on 4 out of 6 at the moment. Two teams that, like we said, we've got a lot of expectations for this year.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it's 2 games in, so it's hard to really say after 2 games, but I'm sure MK Don fans won't be panicking, and to be honest with you, if I was an MK Don fan, I wouldn't be panicking either. 2 games in is very little, Sure, if they're in this position in like 5 or 6 more games, then yeah, sure, panic then, but I don't think now's the time to panic. In terms of Wednesday, I think, they're starting as they mean to go on. A draw and a win is a solid time. But one thing I will note from this game is that I don't know about you guys, but I felt the Wednesday looked a lot more comfortable from set pieces than they did last season.
Yeah, dealt with crosses a lot better than they did against Portsmouth.
Certainly. They didn't quite panic in the same way.
So I feel like that's a really positive for them as well. And little changes like that is really going to help them out. And I think, Moore's probably done a lot of work on that on the training ground. But yeah, I don't think there's really any worries, and I don't think any of us will have any particular worries for either one of these teams moving on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I hope so. Excited to see both of these teams over the season, certainly, and expect them to be pretty high in the table. Oxford United v Cambridge United was, what do people call it, the Battle of the Universities, the boat race battle. I don't know which one they used for Oxford v Cambridge, but it finished 1-0 to Oxford United. A goal from Goodram, I think I've said the name right.
It was Tyler Goodram on his debut.
Goodram on his debut, yeah. Stunning goal right at the end of the match. You can see Carl Robinson certainly seemed to enjoy it from the way that he was right over with the players as well. And a win for Oxford, David, after their opening day defeat at Derby County.
Yeah, it's good to get 3 points on the board, isn't it, for them? And I'm sure James will be more than happy. But I think, the other thing to say is it's really positive for Goodrum to be able to get, a goal on his debut, and actually a really well taken goal as well. Not just sort of a sitter. He really had to work for that. But yeah, no, really good from Oxford, and it's good to see them off the line in this one.
Yep. Impact sub, as we said, for him as well. Oxford started, for instance, with Murphy, Taylor and Bowden leading the line. I believe it's Josh Murphy who has signed for Oxford. I still think Jacob could probably turn up there and people wouldn't even realise it was him. Because of they're so identical, the pair of them. I really don't understand how you tell them apart. I don't know if there's any facial hair difference in them now, but yep, Josh Murphy leading the line for them with Matty Taylor and Billy Bowden, as we said. Cambridge, busy day for Dimitar Maitov. Had plenty of good saves from the Oxford attacks. We know how good a player he's been. He was excellent for them last season. I hope he can do that again. Bit disappointing from a Cambridge perspective, Chris, but nothing to be too ashamed about, I would have thought.
Oh, Oxford are a good side, and really only just sort of edged this one, so I think they can take a lot of comfort from that.
Yeah, I'd have to say so. Another 1-0. It feels like there's been a ton of 1-0s in League One this weekend, certainly. Shrewsbury Town 0, Accrington Stanley 1. I don't.
The red card.
Yeah, I don't really understand what's happened with that. I'm still trying to work out how Tom Flanagan's got two. The yellows are even quicker than Lee Tomlin's last week.
So from what I understand, the first yellow was for the challenge, and then the second yellow was for dissent of the player afterwards. So there was someone that's done like lip syncing that they've put out on a video on YouTube or on Twitter. And the first yellow, like they read their lips, the ref's lips. And the first one is for the tackle, and the second one is for the dissent of then Flanagan after that. So that's why you got the two yellows in quick succession.
The ref says one yellow for the push, second yellow for dissent, and that one's red. See you later.
It's just so
I'm impressed he's managed to beat Lee Tomlin to the space of 2 yellow cards.
I mean,
I didn't think he would.
I want to understand, all right, the lad that's gone down has made a bit of a meal of it, but how the goalkeeper's got away with not getting anything for...
it was Marco Morosi who started
he
into him, wasn't it?
He essentially punched him in the face, didn't he?
And then someone got flattened, and it was a good bit of handbags, to be fair.
Yeah, just strange. Very strange. Tom Flanagan, red card. Accrington got the win, looping header from Tommy Lee, someone they picked up from Bognor Regis, yet another player that Accrington have just picked out the non-league pyramid and taken up to a Football League level, and I'm excited to see certainly a lot of him over season. I think he got 30 goals actually for Accrington last season as well, and this is his third for them as well. Stanley, David, you just always trust them to be a very consistent outfit at League One level now. I think we almost take it for granted really the size of the club and how brilliantly they are to achieve at this level and be competitive. Yeah,
it's quite strange, isn't it? How at one point we were quite apprehensive about how they would do, but just their ability and their level of recruitment to be able to pick out, as you say, like players from non-league and bring them into the Football League, especially from non-league level, not just to League Two, but to bring them up to League One level. They come straight in and instant impact, as in this case. I think it's pretty safe to say that Accrington in general, I think I remember you guys saying on the predictions podcast that they're pretty safely a League One team, and I would probably say that's a fair assessment. And I'm sure they'll do great this season, and probably surprise a few people along the way.
Interesting to see who emerges as the Colby Bishop replacement, though.
Yeah. What do you make of this 5 sub rule now that's come into the Football League and I think the National League as well? So I saw Accrington yesterday made the most of that with 5 subs, including Lee, who got the goal.
Is it 5 subs in 3 windows?
Yeah, there's 3 windows for it.
See, for me, that really benefits those teams that... I find this rule really difficult because, yes, it's good if you have injuries and other situations, but actually I feel like it really benefits those teams with a bit more firing power and a bit more kind of towards the top of the table, given the fact they'll have far more quality coming off of the bench.
Yeah, if you've got a big budget and can afford to have quality backups, it doesn't feel very equitable.
But I also, in turn, think it can add with fatigue. You think about the schedules that a lot of these teams have. You've got 3 cup competitions on top of this 46-game league season and maybe some playoff ties as well. It can be good to help balance the workload that the players get during the season, certainly.
I suppose there's an argument there's an argument for that. Of course there is. But I think, it's the balance between, okay, but as a manager, your job is to manage your squad anyway. Your job is to manage who's going to play and when they're going to play. If you have a bigger budget, then in turn, you're going to be able to get more players in and you're going to be able to get more players of quality in. And I suppose it does create more of a squad game, but for those teams that are on a lower budget, it creates a much different environment for them than it does necessarily for your Sheffield Wednesdays and Ipswiches.
I worry if it puts a bit of unnecessary financial pressure on teams to, recruit two more slightly higher wage players. You know what I mean?
I would hope it gives an opportunity to get some youngsters on the pitch. I think that was the original idea behind it, is that it's giving the chance to get some of your homegrown talent on the pitch and give them a chance to get experience at some senior game time.
I think maybe that's wishful thinking though, because I think that, some clubs might not have a choice but to do that. But I think there'll be some clubs that, that have a bit more firing power and have that little bit more financial backing that will kind of, not follow in the spirit of that particular part of the rule and probably will be more likely to recruit specifically for that. And it will be interesting to see how come maybe January there might be a little bit more recruitment in terms of taking that rule into account.
Yeah, it's a good debate, certainly. It's worth having, and we'll see how it goes across the season, certainly. The only 0-0 in League One yesterday at Fratton Park, Portsmouth 0, Lincoln City 0. A lot of shots to Portsmouth, quite a busy day to Carl Rushworth. He saved a Michael Jacobs, for instance, from Rico Hackett. He saved a Joe Piggott free kick. Rico Hackett wasted another opportunity. Close chance to Lincoln with a flicked header from a corner for Adam Jackson. It's back-to-back draws to both sides. They're both on 2 points. Probably not the best start that they wanted to the season, certainly from a Pompey perspective, but still unbeaten for now. And a draw at Hillsborough is not bad, and this draw at Lincoln's probably okay. The signing of Tom Lowry, I want to mention for Pompey as well, who's a very small, great technical midfielder from Crewe Alexandra. I've been waiting to see where he ends up. I'm pretty excited about him going to Pompey, to be honest, because I don't know if you guys remember his goal against Salford City from a couple of seasons back when Crewe were in League Two and arrived at the top of the table as well. Mm-hmm. We know the quality of possessions, and I'd love to see that come back in a Portsmouth shirt.
Yeah, it'd be lovely to see.
Yeah, certainly, but not starting yesterday. It was Thompson and Pack in midfield again, the thought or two that they used. Hillsborough used again by Portsmouth at Fratton Park as well, but they are both, like Lincoln, 2 points from 2 games so far. Not going to go through the League One table. There's no point. Again, we're only 2 games in. I will give a shout out, though, to the teams who have 100% record. And at the minute, there's only one in League One. And it's Peterborough United, who have 6 points from a possible 6. And I'm surprised by that. Because I did not think we'd take less than 2 games, to be down to just one team with a 100% record. That surprises me.
I think that just shows the competition, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think it's such a fantastic league where truly anyone can beat anyone, and there aren't many leagues like that these days.
Maybe so. But Peterborough, the only team, 6 points out of 6, really flexing their muscles, certainly against Morecambe, and even in their comeback win over Cheltenham Town as well last week, and they currently lead the way with maximum points. Let's drop down and take a look at the world's best 4th tier.
League 2.
League 2, number of games to start with, but I'm going to begin at Holker Street. Barrow 3, Bradford City 2. I mean, Pete Wild's introduction to the Football League has been going pretty good, hasn't it, Chris?
It's not his introduction. He managed Oldham in the Football League.
Okay, his return to the Football League. Sorry. Okay, his introduction to Barrow is
just going superb. Really endeared himself there, I think. I mean, he's really done a cracking job, and to come away with, it was the 95th minute they got that winner.
Oh, it's painful from Brad's perspective, certainly. I mean, Barrow took lead through Ben Whitfield. What a wicked signing he's been so far, by the way.
Yeah.
2 games, I think he's on 2 goals and 2 assists at the moment. His first 2 matches, he's been fantastic. Wasn't long till Bradford actually got an equaliser through Jack Young. The ball getting over the line. Judged to have gone over the line. Up for debate whether it actually was or not. I suppose if the technology goes off, then it probably is. Scrappy second for Barrow, scored by Josh Kay. Bradford equalised in the 95th minute through Andy Cook after he pounces. And a bit like Accrington and Charlton last week, you can get a stoppage time goal, but it doesn't mean the game's over till the whistle goes, because Barrow go and get a winner through Josh Gorn, who latches onto a Ben Whitfield cross on the right and gives Barrow the maximum points, whereas Bradford are on 1 point from 6.
I just saw EFL images that precede unfortunate events tweets, and it was Andy Cook, cupping his ear next to the Barrow fans for that one.
Oh.
A summer account that is, that precedes unfortunate images.
I love that account so much.
It's great apart from when it's your club. And then you realise, oh, well, yeah, we've been it by ourselves. But yeah, Barrow, 2 wins from 2. It seems a bit too easy to pick Wildermere, doesn't it, Chris? Really, how well he started this.
Again, he's had a test in Bradford and he's come away, winning. And the one thing he's doing as well is he's not just winning, he's winning, with entertaining football. It really is a promising start. I mean, I don't want to get too carried away. It's 2 games in, everything can still go a bit wrong, but, that's a really fantastic start for him.
It's brilliant. I love as well, like you say, that he is getting and playing football, because that's what we always felt really with Barrow, even last season, really, when it was under Mark Cooper and then under Phil Brown as well. There's a chance of some really nice football out of the players he's got at his disposal.
Yeah, and he's beaten 2 of the promotion chasing sides in the first 2 games.
Yeah, his wins over Stockport and Bradford is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, especially when you consider the budgets of those 2 teams compared to Barrow.
David, Bradford, not the start they really will have wanted. I mean, there's 2 games, there's plenty of time to go, but that opening day draw with Doncaster, this painful, narrow, late defeat to Barrow when you think you've got a draw up at Holker Street as well. Work to be done for Mark Hughes' side. They've obviously had that really horrible injury for Manuel Loza-Davy as well. That's really not nice to see. He's going to be out for a long period, which is a shame. Thankfully, I think Bradford do have the depth to address that. They brought Harry Chapman in yesterday. They had him playing with Lee Angle. They had Alex Gilliard back in the side as well. Vidane Oliver leading the line. I don't think he's really got going yet, but we know what Vidane Oliver can bring to teams.
Yeah, we certainly do. And, I think, even when he started at Gillingham, it took him a bit of time. But I don't feel too worried about this Bradford side, to be honest. I think they'll do a good job. I just think, unlucky start for sure, but there's definitely been positive movements. And I think, in this game, it's not very often that you get a situation where there's you score in the 95th minute and then someone scores in the 96th to win. So I think Bradford can take a lot from that, it's in that sense, it's a bit of an anomaly, but, if I was a Bradford fan, wouldn't be too worried, especially with, if the Dane starts kicking off, then I think they'll be all right, to be honest.
We've got to put in that caveat, haven't we? I feel like we've got to do this the next 2 weeks, that it's still so early in the season to really say. Certainly, and I think, I generally, I don't know about you two, but personally, I don't really take too much attention until 10 games in, which is when I think I really get a sense of how the table looks. You get an idea of who's going to be up at the other end, who's going to be up at the bottom end, and it does change. I mean, League 2 is probably going to have another team this year who starts really, really poorly and ends up getting promotion. If anything, like the last 2 seasons are anything to go by with Bolton and Bristol Rovers.
Yeah, I just think we're at a point of the season where, it's, as you say, you can't really say anything about anything. And, you've got teams that will obviously be a bit more together, that would have made less signings, but have more players from last season, and some that are still blending in. And it can probably take up to about, depending on how often they're playing, maybe 8-9 games to start blending into those teams anyway. So I suppose that will be the sort of, I think that's a pretty accurate way to.
Yeah, a lot of signs at Bradford, so completely understandable. They might take a bit of time to get fully going. But 2 wins from 2 for Barrow, and it's 2 wins from 2 as well for Crewe Alexandra. Now this, what they're doing at the minute, I'm loving this. Can we have more of this, please, Crewe? I'm really enjoying this. They beat Harrogate Town 3-0 yesterday. I'm really enjoying Zach Williams, who's been playing the left side of defence around Othard and Rod McDonald at centre-back, Kelvin Miller on the right. Zach Williams set up Dan Adjai for the first goal. I think he's had a really good impact since signing as well. Kelvin Miller headed in the second before our time. Courtney Baker-Richardson, who was someone I think we marked as someone who could have a really good positive impact in the front line after the season he had with Newport. He reacted on the rebound to get the third. Crewe, Chris, they've started the season very, very nicely, and I really want to see more of this because I'm enjoying Crewe at the moment.
Yeah, they're trying to make us look a bit silly, but it's with great entertainment. This is the sort of football we used to see from Crewe, we want to see from Crewe, exciting football. I mean, all right, they won't want to get too carried away. Their first 2 wins are Rochdale and Harrogate. They're probably not the strongest teams they'll face this year, but they've come away from particularly yesterday's match looking very assured of themselves.
Yeah, the early talk, David, seems to be that it feels a little bit like how Crewe looked in the early stages under David Artell. Quite a nice progressive side, which is that's really good to hear.
Yeah, very, very good from them. And I think, I quite like how they really capitalised on those set pieces yesterday. And I think actually it's really important to note that that's the first clean sheet that they've kept in 21 games when you consider their form from last season as well and how much they capitulated last year. At times some poor defending from Harrogate, to be fair, from those set pieces. But Crewe looked very good, very good. And to kind of turn things around, again, 2 games in, but a positive start in comparison to the end of last season, for sure.
Yeah, more of this, please, Crewe. More of this, please. Really liking this. Lot of fun. Lot to enjoy. Another of the relegate sides from last year who won yesterday were Doncaster Rovers. Chris, they left it quite late, shall we say, against Sutton United. Donovan Wilson got the opener for Sutton United. And it took until stoppage time for Doncaster to find the net with their first goal. Tommy Rowe picking out George Miller with a cross. That is a combination I could get very used to hearing this season. Rowe finding Miller. That's the quality they have as well. It's great to see Tommy Rowe back in the team as well. I think we always knew George Miller can be a very effective centre forward, really. We saw at Walsall the ability he has, and I hope he can do well to Doncaster. But then Clayton playing direct up to Miller. The ball works across to Kieran Agard for a 94th minute winner. Absolute scenes at the Eco Power Stadium for Doncaster.
Yeah, I wonder how many fans left early.
There probably were some that did, yeah.
Yeah, because I never understand it, but yeah, I mean they'll be really happy with that win yesterday, especially to come from behind. I think that'll give them a real bit of a confidence boost. Yeah,
I hope so. Not that great in their draw with Bradford City. We talked about the antics last week. They obviously didn't have Lee Tomlin. No surprise really. Harrison Biggins and Josh Andrews in the front line with George Miller starting out as well. But Carl Hurst in there. There was Tommy Rowe there as well. Adam Clayton at the base of midfield. James Maxwell, Carl Noyle, Roger Williams, Joseph Delow as the backline, Jonathan Mitchell in goal. I'm quite curious how Doncaster go at the minute this season, David, because they're one of those that I'm not quite sure how to judge yet.
I mean, I think I've got that feeling about most teams in this league, to be honest, because any of them, as we kind of have previously said, like half of this league are expecting playoffs and the other half are expecting promotion anyway, aren't they? I don't think there's, what I quite like actually is that they've realised that there was a difficulty in the game. They've changed up, they've gone direct, and they've got that result, which sometimes is hard to do. But I like a lot of respect for that. Obviously, first couple of games in, again, hard to really say. But I think from what they've shown so far, they've shown they can change it up when they need to and eke out a win if they need to get that. And they've, I would say it's not overly positive, but it's better than it could have been.
Yeah, Kieran Agard brought on as an impact sub. I wonder if the idea they might consider putting Miller and Agard in there straight from the start as well, because quite like the idea of that as a partnership. I think Agard's been. I remember Agard, the League 2 level with MK Dons being sensational a few years back as well. I don't think it's quite happened from since. He had a spell at Plymouth Argyle as well. Not really got fully going. We'll see how it goes with Doncaster, certainly. Stevenage, talking about turnaround, Stevenage turned it around against Stockport County. I was at this game. I'll be honest, I didn't think it was that great a game overall. I found the first half to be rather naff. Jake Reeves impressed me, certainly, to Stevenage. He's been very good since signing, being part of midfield as well. When they play this 5-3-2 that they do, it does require a bit of width provided from their midfielders as well when the fullbacks aren't able to get as high. And Jake Reeves is very comfortable running into that channel, impacting the game in central and wide areas as well. He was impressive for them. For Stockport, I really like Carl Wooten. I mean, that front line that Stockport have at their disposal of Carl Wooten and Paddy Madden is a frightening partnership and frightening a lot more potential as well. I wouldn't expect them to get anywhere near the amount of goals that combined they did in the National League last year, but I think they can certainly cause a massive handful of defences when they fully get going. And it looked like Stockport were going to work their way and grind out the win here, really. They really dug in after getting the opening goal through substitute Callum Camps, his first to the club. When you play a formation as wide as what Stockport and teams like Stevenage do as well, what you can often find is that the benefit of that width means if the ball does somehow work across from one flank to the other, you often find the man at the far post is completely unmarked because the whole opposition have shuffled across to deal with the immediate threat. And that was what happened as the ball found the way to Callum Camps to get the opener for Stockport. They were starting to dig in, and I was thinking they were going to hold this out with a bit of a rugged defensive display. And then Ashley Palmer fouled Saxon early in the box, got a red card for it, sent off. Luke Norris stepped up to the penalty. You know how that ends. Luke Norris, very predictable outcome from him, getting the equaliser, and then it's heading for a point. And then the ball deflects off the post into the path of Jamie Reid for a stoppage time winner. And Stevenage have got 2 late wins out of 2. And David, I'm starting to think Steve Evans is a football genius.
God.
Well, I don't know about that, but I think
I don't know how he's done it.
I think we know.
I left that game thinking, I don't know how that's just happened, but I really appreciate that it did.
He's a master of the shithouse.
He makes physical teams, doesn't he, really? I think
He
that's
does.
where it's clear that this Stevenage team are going to be very physical when they're going to be battling for everything.
And I think they were one, I should say as well, who benefited from the amount of subs, because they got Jamie Reid on up top, they got Danny Rose on up top, they brought Reid into midfield, they brought Saxon early in a fullback, Kane Smith in the fullback as well. They went from a back 5 essentially to almost a 4-2-3-1 to just really go at Stockport, especially when they're down to 10 men, and it did pay off.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, Stockport didn't do themselves any favours, because I'm not really sure where Hinchcliffe was going. I think he'd heard the full-time whistle anyway for that goal. I think he was just, I'm off now. But the red card wasn't exactly a helpful thing either, was it? But
yeah, I wouldn't be getting worried if I was a Stockport fan anyway.
No, it's a bit of a painful one for them. I mean, they've had 2 disappointing defeats really. That very disappointing first half last week at Barrow, and then to be in a winning position and throw it away against Stevenage as well is not ideal. But I think Stockport, they've got to get back up to speed. You remember the winning machine?
Issues.
Winning machine that was formed at the Day Challenge last year. I do expect to come back. There's been some new additions. There's slightly readjusting to a different level, slightly higher level of competition certainly, and I think it will work out for Stockport.
They looked all right yesterday. They were perhaps a bit unfortunate to lose yesterday. I don't think it's it's not a disaster.
Not a disaster, not an ideal start though to be sat on 0 points from 6, but Stevenage sat on 6 points from 6. Steve Evans, I'm starting to think Steve Evans is a football genius. I'm sorry, guys.
It is just bonkers that they were. He came in with his goal of avoiding relegation. He did that, but I mean, I saw them towards the end of last season, and they didn't look good. And they've come out, they've recruited well over summer. They've built a very physical side, and they're reaping the rewards.
Yeah, very good to them. Very good start to their season. David, talk to me about Gillingham 1, Rochdale 0.
It's a good game, to be fair.
Well,
surprisingly, yeah, it was much better than last week for sure. It was a really poor start last week, away at AFC Wimbledon. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, Will Wright gave a really nice delivery, and Scott Cashcott has done well to get on the end of it for the only goal of that game. For me, I think in the first 45 minutes, I think we probably played better than we've played in a very long time. It seemed, we were actually trying to keep the ball on the floor and playing football how some people would say football should be played. I will say though that Jordan Green looked especially good yesterday. He really seems to be battling for everything. And I noticed that, even if, some players would have come away from some of those tackles and not gone for it or not been so persistent, but he really showed a lot of persistence to be able to make and create some chances. And him and Reeves, their link up play, I think is going to be really interesting this season. I think it was really interesting to see Ollie Lee push back into the midfield again, even though he'd been so effective in attacking midfield in pre-season. But it'll be interesting to see how Harris determines that those two should play together in terms of that partnership, and see how Green and Reeves play, or Green and Lee this season. Definitely really positive, and actually really great to see Alex McDonald back in the side as well, coming on for a late substitution appearance.
A lot of praise as well for welcome back of Ryan Law on the left side defence.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a high point of our defence. I don't know if there's many high points we could have taken from last week's game, to be quite honest with you. I think, Aimer has been questionable. So I think, for me, hopefully by the end of the window, we'll have at least a centre back, another centre back in for a bit more cover there. But, yeah, all in all, 1-0 victory. It is what it is, but, it's an okay start. 3 points out of 2 games. Can't really complain, and getting back used to this level. And as usual with Gills, it's a complete rebuild, and takes time for those players to
I feel like
bed
you
themselves
rebuild
in.
every 6 months.
It does seem to be the case, but I think, that's down to, budgets and whatever else, and just managerial changes, or just, we just offer terrible terrible contract lengths or lose players on different stuff. Hopefully that will change now. We've got someone who's specifically in charge of recruitment, but I won't hold my breath until I see the results of that. But yeah, good result. Can't really complain, and hopefully we can move on for another 3 points next time out.
I can always recommend a different head of recruitment. I know of one that's unemployed at the moment.
No.
Yeah, win for Gillingham. 2 defeats to 2 for Rochdale. Still slightly concerned about them at the stage. I prefer the wing backs I went with yesterday. Demis Rick on the right, with Lady White starting out a left wing back instead rather than Abraham Oddo. Still need to be a bit convinced by what Rochdale can offer. I still think Diagaraga's going to be quite an integral part of the midfield. Really had a good chance from a header yesterday and a bit tipped over. But that's 2 defeats from 2 from them to start the season, and Gillingham getting a win at Priestfield on the first game of the season at home. Some other 1-0s to talk about. Newport County against Walsall was Michael Flynn's homecoming to Rodney Parade. I was quite disappointed to hear a section of the fan base was giving abuse to him, considering all that he's done at the club. That's disappointing.
Did he leave acrimoniously?
He just let. I think he just reached the point where he said, "I just can't take this team any further." He did leave during the season, but I think he just said he reached the point where he felt the defeat to Morecambe didn't sit well with him as well, and he decided to go elsewhere.
He took a club that, its natural position is probably quite a bit lower, and he took them into the playoffs twice.
He did great things with Newport. He really has set them up for the team that Rowbury has now. I think Rowbury wouldn't have the team he has now really without Michael Flynn, so disappointing to hear. But Flynn did get the last laugh yesterday. Mickey Dimitriou's long throws have caused problems in his first couple of games. He's one of my favourite defenders at this level, really. He plays on the left side of the back three, and he's got so much to his offensive game as well as his defensive game as well. He can bomb up the channel. He's got that long throw I mentioned as well. He's got goals in him as well. He needs to be handled by teams who come up against Newport this season, certainly. And he did find the net in this game, but unfortunately it was his own one. And it was an own goal which ended up giving the Saddlers a very resilient win on Michael Flynn's return to Rodney Parade. Made more difficult certainly for them by a very silly second yellow card to Taylor Allen, who'd been playing at wing back as well. Put them down to 10 men, but they did get over the line. Walsall, 2 wins from 2, David. Positive start for them, I've got to say. Not as good as the win over Hartlepool, the best got, certainly last week, but you can't complain about 6 points from 6.
I was going to say a win's a win regardless of how you get it, right? I think we always thought that there were going to be positive things from this Michael Flynn team, and I don't think we're disappointed so far. I imagine they'll have a good job this season, and they seem to be going really well so far. I mean, you can clearly see the influence that Flynn's having on the team so far, and actually a bit of retribution from, as you said before, when you've got fans of a previous team that are kind of berating him like that, it's just completely unnecessary, and maybe in this particular case, he's kind of, come out of it having the last laugh at least.
And another team who are 2 wins from 2. Leyton Orient, they got a 1-0 win at Crawley Town. It's yet another belter from Tom James, who's having his own goal of the season competition at the minute. Both of his goals have been crackers. They brought him. He's been brought into midfield. I think he played fullback actually yesterday, but he played in midfield in the opening day win over Grimsby Town as well. A cracking goal to win the game. Crawley, 2 defeats from 2. Chris, not ideal. I do get the sense you can see what they're trying to build under Kevin Betsy. There was a potential for this amazing counter-attacking goal yesterday, which was an opportunity that was wasted by James Tilley at the end. But long way to go for Crawley, but I like to see what they're building at the minute. I hope it can start to come good to them soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a slow start for them, but as I said with other teams, I don't think they need to be too worried. I think they have got enough quality in that. Just really, if they want to be competing up in the top half, they need to get going soon.
Yep, I hope so. 3-5-2 again yesterday. Travis Johnson, James Tilley as the fullbacks. George Drankham, Jim Conroy, Toby Moll on the back line. Telford and Nichols as a partnership up top should be very good. I really like the idea of these forward options that Crawley have got at their disposal with Telford, Nadizan, Kwesi Appiah as well, and Nichols in there as well. Potential for some to get pretty good out of Betsy, and hopefully we see it working sooner rather than later. But Leyton Orient, David, I'm really enjoying them under Wellens at the minute.
They're doing really great, aren't they? Like, it's just it's really great. Do you know what? It's really great to see a team like this have that sort of turnaround, and the way they played yesterday was really positive, and it shows that this is a club that's definitely moving in the right direction. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if they are genuinely in contention for those playoff places this year.
I think at the minute they might be eyeing up more than playoffs at the minute, but they're one of the teams I'm feeling certainly very bullish about at the moment, and are sat on 2 wins from 2. The other 1-0 yesterday in League 2, Macclesfield Town over Tranmere Rovers. Macclesfield went with the 3-5-2 again that we saw last week in their defeat to Salford City, but I much prefer the personnel in this one, for instance. Now you had Lucas Akins and Stephen McLaughlin playing as wing backs, they're much more suitable to that position. I think having Ollie Hawkins coming back into the back line after his suspension really helped as well. He went to the centre of the back three with John Joe O'Toole to the right of him and Riley Harbottle to the left. It was Jordan Bowery up top with Reed Soates. That's a partnership I like as well. Riley Harbottle ended up getting the lone goal for Mansfield Town from a corner as well. He's one of a couple of Nottingham Forest loanies who are in the Mansfield team. Hiram Burton catching the eye again for Mansfield Town. That's no surprise to me at all. He was impressive to Milton Keynes Dons last season. I remember particularly enjoying his performance in the second leg of the playoffs against Wycombe Wanderers as well. So that was a very fun sign to see Mansfield make, and I'm quite keen on their signing of Anthony Hartigan that they've recently announced as well. A young, quite exciting midfielder that was previously at AFC Wimbledon as well. Chris, I do hope we get to see this full-strength Tranmere defence sooner rather than later, because I think it will be difference maker. They had to play that back five again, which had Carl Jameson, Neil Byrne and Luke Robinson as three with Ethan Bristow and Dacus Cogley on the right side. So they're still waiting for Turnbull and Davis to come back, and I think it will be difference maker for them.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was chatting to a Tranmere fan on Twitter who said that Carl Jameson actually had a masterclass yesterday. Which is a phrase I never thought I'd hear, and apparently they want to.
You
play
have
him.
Such a problem with him.
He was so bad. I just don't understand how you take the worst player out of a relegated side and keep. Anyway, they want to use him as a sweeper apparently this season. Once they've got that full strength defence, which I think will be quite interesting because he has got a bit of pace about him. But I don't think they've come away from that one feeling too upset with anything. They do want their full strength squad, but I think they'll start to churn away soon.
Yeah, I want to see Turnbull Davis back in because it lets him go to a Thor, lets him put more options in midfield.
Yeah.
And when you've got that front line of Kane, Hemmings and Elliot Nevitt to get some good midfield support is really vital to helping them get the goals they can. And hopefully we'll see that from Tranmere sooner rather than later. Grimsby Town and Northampton Town played out a 1-1 draw at Blundell Park. Northampton got their opener from a tight angle from Sam Hoskins. He's got 3 goals already this season. I mean, Sam Hoskins has been a part of Northampton for what feels like a millennia. He's been so influential to them at League 2 and League 1 level, and he's already contributed well to them. Nice build-up in the beginning to Grimsby Town's equaliser. It ended up falling to John Maguire-Drew on the rebound. Limbs in the pontoon, and the pontoon's one of my favourite stands at Blundell Park, as you can probably tell. I do like Blundell Park. Yeah, it's aged in places, let's say, but it's got quite a nice feel to it, and I like that it's back a part of the EFL family again.
I had one of my favourite away days in Oldham's first. It was one of our first away games in League 2 when we got relegated, and that was a really fun away day. We got a good win. The sun was out, so it's sort of a day out, sort of at the beach almost. It's a cracking stadium. It's a cracking place to play football. Proper ground. Yeah,
it's a good crowd. That Grimsby Town crowd as well. They're a lot of fun. The pontoon stand. I mean, they got a league equaliser yesterday, but for the sounds of it, they were actually quite disappointed with just a single point. Put a lot of tests onto Northampton Town yesterday, which is encouraging to see, certainly for Paul Hurst's side. Not a bad point at all to pick up.
And their owners apparently been in touch with Oldham's new owners to offer them a bit of advice on bouncing back straight back to League 2. So I'm hoping I might be able to visit there next year.
I think I'll just need a top half finish for the first time in however long it's been, really.
Let me dream.
Tough league to get out, Chris. You'll know. It's a lot of competition.
I know, but I like to dream.
You do. Nothing wrong with dreaming. Unless you're a Burton fan that gets crushed within 10 minutes of kick-off. That's another
48
story.
seconds.
48 seconds today, of course. 1-1 draw between Grimsby and Northampton. There was a 1-1 draw as well between Colchester United and Carlisle United. Noah Chilvers getting the opener for Colchester after a Ben Barkley error. I stressed his important last week. It's still there. He's so good, Noah Chilvers. I think he's fantastic. He's been playing an attacking midfield role behind Freddie Sears recently as well. He'll be really important towards Colchester. Christian Dennis got the equaliser to Carlisle United before our time. David, we've got a lot of people have quite low expectations of Colchester, quite a lot of concerns, but I'm quite encouraged about how Colchester have started the season, even with 1 point from possible 6 so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's always going to be doubts on teams based on, obviously, if they're not recruiting right and if they're not doing how we probably expect them to do. But to be honest with you, I don't think they've done too badly. And I think, the fact that they've been able to have, I don't think all of their recruitment is terrible. And I think when you've got the form of some of their players the way it is
There's
at
not
the
been a
moment,
lot of it. That's the main thing for me, I think, really. You've got Nubian, and they brought in Kieran O'Hara now, who's going to provide competition to Sam Hornby. I was kind of expecting O'Hara to start yesterday, because to me, I would probably put him above Hornby, but it's Wayne Brown seems Sam Hornby is his number one at the moment, and that's absolutely fine as well. I think he says he wants to have 2 starting goalkeepers, which I think is good for competition, but at the same time, it's the one position that's constant on the pitch, and you can only ever have one of them in a game.
There's always an argument
and
for
you
that,
want a
isn't
settled
there?
one as well.
You do want a settled one. I get this idea for competition to raise the level of the other, but if you've got keepers who both want to be starters, it's difficult to balance that game time.
However, I do understand that sort of discussion happening this early in the season, because I think, this is the kind of time to decide which one might be your number one, especially if they're kind of, especially if you're not too sure. I think, the first few games of the season could be a good time to have that, and then you have the opportunity to have a more consistent starter. But I suppose that's ideally what pre-season's for, but I guess, that's difficult to quantify league form, isn't it?
No, but he's gone with Sam Hornby for now. We'll see if O'Hara gets into the team or not, but we'll see with that. Encouraged by Colchester. Chris, I'm feeling very encouraged by Carlisle, I've got to say. They're going really nicely under Paul Simpson at the minute.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a solid point yesterday. They're building nicely. I mean, that's 4 points, so, if you're averaging 2 points a game for the season, you'd be quite happy. But I think that's a solid start for them.
5-3-2, Ryan Edmondson and Christian Dennis in the line. Amari Patrick became a father during the week, so he has featured on the bench instead. He'll be coming back into the team. I still think he'll be someone to get a lot of goals out of them. His pace and his ability on the ball is so effective at League Two level, and I'm quite excited about what Paul Simpson's building. They might add a bit more to it, but I'm quite liking what they do at the minute, and hopefully we get to see some more of them from Carlisle through the season. Pair of 0-0s to wrap things up with. Swindon Town against Salford City was goalless. A lot of yellow cards in this game, particularly for Swindon Town, including 2 for Harry McCurdy. I believe the first one was for dissent in the first half. He committed a foul for the second yellow and was off before our time. A lot of yellows for the other Swindon Town players as well. Great save from Sol Bryn to keep Salford at bay. Gladwell unable to pounce on an error. Swindon not made the best start this season, have they, Chris?
No, they haven't. And you comment on cards there. I think there were actually a lot of cards in Jar. I mean, I've not looked at the total stats, but I saw in the National League there were 7 red cards, and it feels like League Two's, been up there on the card count. I think that'll be a fine for Swindon, won't it? It's not the start we hope for them. I mean, we tipped them as a playoff chasing team, and they've only got 1 point from the first 2 games. They've not shown too much promise, but I've no doubt they'll start to settle down over the coming weeks.
Still waiting to see who that striker will be to partner McCurdy throughout the season. McCurdy won't be available, of course, for the next game, but they went with Jacob Wakeling yesterday. They've tried Adeloy up top as well. There's a few options. You're still not quite sure, because it doesn't yet feel the same as that Swindon line we had last year, for instance, where it was Tyrese Simpson and McCurdy, and that was fantastic under Gladwin, but Simpson's probably not going to play a part this year, so we'll have to see who becomes the partner for them. Salford likewise, 4 points from 6, going okay, going quite well. We talked about last week about the front line they can have, with you've got Callum Endry, Brandon Thompson-Sante, Conor McCanley, Matt Smith as an option potentially as well.
Mm-hmm.
Decent start to Salford. We'll see what comes from them. The other 0-0 draw to talk about, Hartlepool United against ASC Wimbledon. You can't beat an away trip where you go to the opposite end of the country and it finishes goalless.
Yeah, I mean...
Long way back for Wimbledon fans after that.
Yeah, at least it was nice weather. At least it's... It's even worse if you travel across the country, you get absolutely soaked and practically end up with hypothermia, and it's for a 0-0 draw. So at least it was a bit of warmth.
Yeah, I suppose. And I'm pleased Hartlepool could pick up a more positive result as well, especially after last weekend where they were really heavily beaten by Walsall last week. They went with a 3-4-1-2 yesterday. Got Roland Maniise back into the back line with Alex Lacey and Ewan Murray. Jamie Sterry back in the team as well, which is really good because he's such an important fullback. I think he could be one of the best at this level, certainly. Again, still waiting to see who that emerging goal scorer is in the team, but we'll have to see that in time. But that's Hartlepool with a point to get their themselves off the mark for the season after their opening day defeat at Walsall. Again, I won't go through the League 2 table, there's no point, but I will give a shout out to the teams who have 100% record on their first 2 games. That is Walsall, Crewe Alexandra, Leyton Orient, Barrow and Stevenage. And it's the only division with more than one, actually, I've noticed as well. I think the Championship's only got 1 team left now, as League 1's only got 1 as well, so 5 teams leading the way for League 2 at the minute with maximum points.
Only league in the top 4.
Only league in the EFL, then, let's say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't forget us, rotting away in non-league.
Yeah, talking the National League. If you haven't already, we do have a podcast set up. It's called the D5 Football Podcast, the 5th tier podcast. It's run by James Richards, who's going to be involved in that as well. He'll be covering the National League. We'll be trying to give as much coverage to what's just a crazy division. I mean, if anyone saw the red card to Lucas Coughlin yesterday for Chesterfield, for instance, who I quite liked how Chesterfield got their goalkeeper sent off yesterday and didn't have an option on the bench, so Ollie Banks had to go and go for Chesterfield. And he ended up drawing 2-2 with Bolton Wanderers, because that's the 5th tier for you.
It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers.
You're going to have a lot of fun in this league this year, Chris, I can tell you.
I think I'm going to enjoy it. I think I really am going to enjoy it.
It's nice to actually have some positivity about Oldham as well, certainly.
I'm actually really, because I'm going to my first game next season. As I say, I've got a season ticket after boycotting, and no one's expecting too much from this season, so it's just nice to have a bit of, just be looking forward to the football.
Yeah, nice to look forward to football. I wish I could look forward to football matches, but...
You can, just not Burton.
Yeah, going elsewhere is quite fun. It's just doing the Burton games, unfortunately, at the minute.
Yeah, you also adopt Stevenage, no?
I could adopt Stevenage, yeah. Steve Evans, a football genius. Enjoy that one.
I think he switched agents.
Is that because we're getting sidetracked massively now? We'll just get back on it, but we'll wrap up the episode to this before it descends into absolute chaos, before anything gets crazy. Chris, David, thank you for this. David, first pod of the season for you. Happy to get back into it?
Yeah, feeling a little out of practice, mate, but you guys have done a great job, as always, and it's great to get back on it. Looking forward to a great season.
Excellent, can't wait to get going. We will see you next week for more review of the world's best 3rd and 4th tiers. Until then, goodbye.